AT&T just announced a $43 billion deal to spin off their Warner Media assets and merge them with Discovery, forming a new company. This has massive implications to existing AT&T shareholders and the whole content streaming landscape. In this video, I'm going to fully explain the deal, share the logic of the executives behind it, and detail how this impacts my investment thesis on AT&T. My name is Zach, and you should leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. If you're a subscriber, then you know AT&T is one of my largest positions in my long-term dividend stock portfolio. So when this blockbuster news broke, I got countless messages asking my opinion on it. The truth is, I'm still digesting it. There's a lot to unpack here. Let's start off by just explaining the deal. AT&T will be spinning off their subsidiary, Warner Media, and merging it with Discovery to form a new company. AT&T will receive $43 billion in a combination of cash, debt, and Warner Media retaining debt. This will be done through what's called a reverse Morris trust, which makes the transaction tax-free. In addition to this, AT&T shareholders would receive stock representing 71% of the new company, while Discovery shareholders would own 29%. So there will be AT&T, which is now purely a communications business, and the new separate entity that combines the assets of Warner Media and Discovery. The company said the deal is expected to close in the middle of 2022, pending regulatory approval. So we have plenty of time to digest these changes and learn more. But wait. There is one more detail that has made a lot of shareholders upset. The AT&T dividend will be reduced as a result of the deal. This is somewhat expected as AT&T will no longer have the Warner Media segment, which brought in a sizable chunk of cash flow. So it's logical that they'd have to adjust the dividend to reflect this change. Also, you have to take into account that you'd now own a portion of the new company, which could eventually pay a dividend itself. I'd say it's unlikely that it will anytime soon though, given the new debt and competitive content budgets. However, AT&T will actually be cutting the dividend beyond the logical adjustment. The company said the remaining AT&T assets will aim to give shareholders a dividend payout ratio of between 40 and 43% based on anticipated free cash flow of around $20 billion. The current payout ratio is around 60%, so not only are they generating less overall cash flow, they are giving a lower percentage of it back as a dividend. Some estimates have this as a potential dividend cut in real terms of around 50%. The argument for this cut is so they can invest more in 5G and create shareholder value through retained earnings. We'll discuss this later. Luckily, this change in the dividend policy would not occur until the deal closes, which I mentioned earlier will be in the middle of 2022. So again, we have a lot of time to analyze and a lot of unknown details. After the deal was announced, the CEOs of AT&T and Discovery did their tour on the media circuit to explain the transaction. It's important to understand the thought process of these executives since they obviously thought this move was beneficial to both companies. So I picked out some of the most interesting moments to play, and I'll be interjecting with occasional commentary. Make sure to stick around because after I'll be giving my personal opinion on all these new changes. First, the Discovery CEO gives his pretty bullish take on the future.
By putting our assets together in media, we think that we're not just better together, but that we're probably the best media company in the world. We have the most IP, we have the most in-language content, we have the greatest diversity of content. And for John, the vision here is that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, we're the #1 media company in the world, and AT&T is the #1 telecom communications company in the world. And we take along 70% of our shareholders are John shareholders, and we're creating value for them if we can do everything we think we can.
Pretty bullish, but the merger does put them in a very strong position in the streaming wars. However, there's a lot of unknown about how these services will be offered and whether they will be combined or bundled together.
You can offer it like Bob Iger does, where he has a bundle, and that's working very well for Iger and Chapek at Disney. Or you can do it the way that John and Jason are doing it, where you have one super offering with HBO Max, and both of them are good. What we're going to learn, as John rolls out AVOD this month, is learn more about how people want to buy the content. Do they want to pay one price, or do they want to, have a bundle?
so the exact pricing and offering is still up in the air. He alluded to how both HBO Max and Discovery Plus are launching cheaper ad-supported services this year. This will help gather more consumer data as they plan how they will move forward. Next, AT&T CEO John Stankey will discuss why they acquired Time Warner only to deal it away 3 years later and whether or not it created more shareholder value.
Now, what changed since we went into this was originally a point of view that this would help our connectivity business, and indeed it has. It's lowered churn. It's helped us on customer acquisition on things like selling more broadband connections, and it's raised customer satisfaction on those products. But in 2016, I don't think we had a clear picture of what the global opportunity was going to be in direct-to-consumer and whether or not that was going to be essential to playing in that space. And it's become clear that, as David just described, it's in fact going to be global. And the market opportunity for that, the value creation opportunity, is significant. It's so much more significant than the value that we get back into our connectivity business domestically in the United States to drive down churn and improve our customer acquisition, that I can't in good conscience not allow these assets to develop to their full potential and to give it the kind of exposure in the market that it needs, to get the kind of multiple on it that we just talked about that will increase value that the share owners of AT&T at 71% will carry forward. This is the right move at this time to actually make that happen, given the changes in the environment. If you want to think about it, probably a closer comparison would be $100 billion for the original Time Warner transaction. And if you kind of look at taking the equity portion of this to Discovery's multiple and the debt that we're bringing back in at $43 billion, you're right around in that same neighborhood. But you don't want to just conclude that that's the only return, because during the pendency of owning it, there were, of course, cash flows generated over that period of time that the company and the shareholder got the benefit of. There were about $5 billion of transactions that were done on various assets that we monetized. And more importantly, AT&T shareholders will take 71% of this new company. And part of why we're doing this is to expose the media asset to the market so that it re-rates to the appropriate multiple that other media assets are selling at. And I would expect after this equity goes into market, in fact, to the extent that Discovery trades up right now, AT&T shareholders benefit from that. And part of this is to unlock that value, that equity value that we think is suppressed by keeping the media asset in. So not only will it have been an investment with a positive return up to this point, I expect that to accelerate as multiples re-rate moving forward here.
I actually think Stankey is correct that this deal created more value for shareholders. AT&T itself will be a leaner, more focused company with less debt, and the new entertainment company will likely trade at a higher earnings multiple. Best case, it will be valued similar to Disney and Netflix. Worst case, it just trades at the earnings multiple of Discovery prior to the deal. Warner Media assets were no doubt being undervalued as a part of AT&T. Finally, Stankey will discuss the dividend cut, which is what most of you are likely dying to hear about.
For shareholders this morning who are looking at this and looking at what looks like a cut to the dividend, what do you say to them?
I would tell you, look, when you do something like what we've done here, which is we're moving out a substantial portion of the cash flows with the media company and in return giving the shareholder an equity interest in that. We recently sold off part of the DirecTV company, which also had cash flows associated with it. It would be only normal for a company to come in and relook the dividend, given that the asset base has kind of been resized a bit. And as we've guided and shared with the market, we're going to be in about a 40 to 43% payout rate when we set that. And that's still going to have the AT&T dividend for those shareholders that stay behind at the top 95% of yield for dividend paying stocks. It's still going to be a very attractive dividend. And some of that money that we're not paying out in dividends now, we're putting back into the business to reinvest in higher growth, higher return opportunities in broadband and wireless. And every shareholder should want us to do that, because it's better, rather than to pay a 5% dividend, to go out and put it into something that can return 18, 19% and generate the value and growth associated with that.
As I explained earlier, there was a logical level to adjust the dividend due to the deal. However, AT&T used this as an opportunity to cut their dividend even more so they can retain additional earnings to invest. A large number of investors found this devastating because many only invest in the company for their strong dividend. A lot of retired people depend on this stock for dividend income, so a 50% 50% reduction is extremely harsh. The management honestly misled a lot of investors. They claimed the dividend was safe, and I'd argue it actually was, but they decided to go in a different direction through this deal. This made a lot of investors angry, especially Jim Cramer, who just started recommending the stock this past month on his show.
The truth is, AT&T made a boneheaded decision, and now they're paying for it. But in corporate America, no one really pays for it. No one's even allowed to say it. No one's allowed to admit it. No one can admit, quote, this is a quote that I would have put in the press release. My predecessor made one heck of a moronic move, paying $85 billion for Time Warner just a couple of years ago, money we didn't have, claiming our wireless subscriber base would somehow augment the media business. But it turns out we're just a heavily indebted cell phone company with no important consumer relationship at all. Because that well-heeled, well-compensated bozo paid so much for no reason whatsoever, I have to dump this thing for about half of what we paid and also cut the dividend in half, even though I know the only reason my shareholders bought AT&T was a source of income, period, end quote. There, I would give them that quote. That would be good, right?
Strong statement, Jim, but a lot of people agree with him. In fact, AT&T shares tanked 2.7% on the news and another 6% after hours. A lot of people are selling out of the stock. So what am I going to do? Nothing.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
I'm not selling on this news. The reason has to do with my situation. I'm young and not dependent on AT&T as a source of dividend income, so I'm more willing to hang through a dividend cut. Most importantly, I think the actual business may be better off than it was before the deal. AT&T has less debt and is now a more focused company that can invest to compete with T-Mobile and Verizon. I expect it will continue to pay a dividend that will slowly grow over time. Also, I was bullish on Warner Media and HBO Max streaming, so of course I'm bullish on Discovery being added to the equation. I think they have a unique content offering that complements Warner Media very nicely. It's now clear that Disney, Netflix, and this new company will be the 3 largest players in streaming. I want to stick around and get this ownership in the new company. However, I do think it's the weakest of the 3. They have a sizable amount of debt and are starting from the lowest position, but I do think they can overcome this. In the streaming wars, it all comes down to content ownership. Warner Media and Discovery now have an incredibly large catalog of high-quality IPs. Also, they have the potential to lead with powerful bundling economics. I was very surprised when this deal was announced. It didn't even cross my mind that they would part ways with Warner Media. I actually thought the more likely option was that they'd fully acquire a company like Discovery. So I really had to take my time and think about what this deal means. I'm still processing it. Besides the brief points I mentioned earlier, my biggest takeaway is just how much is unknown. We don't know the product offerings the new company will have. We don't know how well integrated they will be. We don't know if there will be bundles, combined services, or new services altogether. We don't even know the name of the new company yet. But remember, this deal won't actually close until mid-2022, so there's a lot of time to learn more information. AT&T is one of my largest positions in my long-term dividend stock portfolio. There's no way I was going to immediately sell out of it based on news that won't even come into effect for at least a year. You shouldn't rush a big decision like that. My current plan is to hold and wait. I don't blame you if you choose to sell. The dividend cut was significant, and their dramatic actions can really make you question the judgment of management. I remain cautiously optimistic. My current plan is to hold long term, but I'm not looking to buy more on the news. If prices fall below my cost per share of $28.49, I may be tempted to buy. The stock is still lowly valued, and like I mentioned, I think it's better off post-deal. However, this is just my opinion, and you should make sure to do your own research before making any investment decisions. Leave a comment below about what you did with your AT&T investment. I'm really interested to hear everyone's perspective. I'll be sure to make more videos on the stock as my thoughts evolve. Thank you for watching Dividend Data. I'd greatly appreciate if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you follow me on Twitter, link in the description, you can get real-time updates on my buys and dividends coming in. Also, you can follow me on Instagram at Dividend Data. You can support the channel over on Patreon, where you can gain access to a community Discord server. The link is in the description. Please leave a comment below, and thank you for watching.